one's the heat gauge? That one, I think. '64, it said. Who sets these things?
That one's the heat for the floor or the heat for the air
What's on the
conditioning?
heat? It should be. Besides that, upstairs set to 62. It's freezing.
Check that everything is actually running. Why does it not say?
See, you're cold.
Yeah.
Too bad it's not too much warmer here, but it's a lot better than outside.
The body heat went up.
Huh?
The body heat went up. You still want to drink?
Yeah, I'll coffee this time.
I'm gonna go start letting everybody into the Zoom meeting. Everything seems to be up and running.
No one in yet. Okay.
Well, they can't. It wouldn't show that they're in because I have to go home and let them in.
Good Erev Shabbos, Rabbi.
Good Erev Shabbos, how are you?
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem.
Cold.
Sehr kalt. Sehr kalt.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, 2 more minutes.
Cup of coffee.
They're bringing it to me.
Dr. Rabbi heeft de schrift 2 minuten.
Huh?
Heeft Dr. Rabbi de office heeft de schrift 2 minuten.
You know he's going to be here, and then it's going to be that.
Hij heeft de even schrift.
And that's what I'm afraid of.
Hoe is het weer?
I want to be getting ready for Shabbos, at least about 10, 12. I eat something, so right after I go ready for Shabbos. It's that important before now. You'll come before Melcha.
2 minuten, that's right.
Yeah, but
4 minuten.
before Melcha.
Just people around.
So do it upstairs. Come up. Come on. It's upstairs anyway. It's going to be the people around. I have to go into somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Minute.
Yeah. Okay. No more. Close the door, we're gonna freeze.
All the matanos. My kids enjoyed all the matanos that we gave.
Good. Okay. Already good. No, it's fine. Yeah. It says with the end of 2 years and Paris Cholim. Now, the shaila is why do you have to spend the extra 2 years there? So the shaila is because the answer that he had no right to ask the B'sar Mashkin to remember him. No, he should rely on a Kodesh Baruch Hu. He asking me, we all know you have to do shtadlus. So why did Shaykh, what's the tain on him? So I believe that the tain on him was that he was overly asking for shtadlus. What's he asking for? He says, I'm asking you to get me out because I was stolen, right? I never did any averis and everything. I was a good guy all the time. And it's not my fault, but all he has to do is ask him, please get me out of jail. That's all. What has the difference why I'm in jail or not? What difference does it make they threw me in because I was innocent or not innocent? Why you're asking me a favor? I'm not going to judge you for what you did. Not you did either crook anyway. You did not believe that that he's innocent. So my nafka. So all he should have done was to tell him, please get me out. I don't even know if he needed the please. Get me out. Shaila is so, and was there like a special time on him? Let's say something happened to us. We would, I guess you would say you would beg to get out in a way. So maybe that's what he was doing. He was begging. True. But that he shouldn't have done. He was different than other people in the fact that he realized that the Rabbeinu Shalom was with him. How did he realize it? When they went down to Mitzrayim, the Ishmaelim had what he called taking perfumes instead of the normal schmutz that they took. So obviously the din is that you shouldn't have been that way, and yet it was for you special. You came to Mitzrayim, you got into a whole mamish, you're sold, and what happens there? You're sold to a place where all of a sudden you become the big cheese, and then they accuse you, and you put all of a sudden you're in the mamish in jail, and again you become the big cheese. And in other words, these places, are you really suffering? Except for the fact that you're not home. So you realize the Rebbeinu Shalom is with you. That these are the things that not normally but don't behold a plain person. So if that's the case, so why don't you have bitochen in HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you got out of this place too? In other words, to avoid that overly cringe, that worry, if you would put it. I'd like to explain maybe a little bit a chilik between the two Lishonos in the Gemara that affect us is when we worry about things. One lashon is called the Avidachem and Latavavid, and one lashon is called the Gamzul L'Taiva. Now, it's mashma that both Lishonos come from the same person, from Lochamish Gamzul. And the first case we know from the story in Parshas, Maisel Rabbi Akiva, and he got this supposedly from Nochamish Gamzul, was his Rebbe, that he came once to a town, and he was not, no one would offer him a place to sleep for the night. So he had to sleep in the street. I assume the street, whatever it is still cold and dirty or hard, right? Okay, it's not as comfortable. He then wanted to learn it that night. The wind came and blew out his candle. He didn't have any more light. All right, he's planning for the morning. His rooster's going to wake him up. All of a sudden his rooster gets eaten up. At least in the morning we'll go somewhere else, and the donkey gets eaten up. So now after each time that something happened, he said, "Kol di'avdach l'tav of it." So he lost his ride, he lost his alarm clock, he lost his light, and he slept on the hard ground. So it wasn't really very comfortable for him. But the next day, when he came into town, he found that the whole town was wiped out. That bandits or gangsters, whoever came during the night, and they killed the whole city. And if he would have been in that town, invited into somebody's house, he too would have been killed. So he said, "Kol di'avdach l'tav." He saw everything that God did for the good. But personally, it was pretty bad. It was not a comfortable night. He lost those things that he lost. And Memele, you can't say it was good, but you can say it's a lot better than getting killed. Now let's take the Maisa of Nochamish Gamzul, it's more than Tainus. He personally was sent as a emissary to the Roman emperor to bribe him. And with him came a box full of jewels. And this was the bribe. He came to this inn. I don't remember how they knew he was carrying something of value. They empty out his jewels. They put back sand in there. And Nochamish Gamzul doesn't bother looking at it to see what, if it's the same box he had. If it's the same contents as he had before. Like most people would be worrying, I'm carrying jewels. Let me see if I still have them. I still have them. He depended on that he probably hasn't. Or God's with him in any case, so whatever happens. And he comes to the king, and he presents the box to the king, and the king opens it up, and he sees it's full of sand. And he starts to yell about how the Jews are making fun of him and all the things that he had. Instead of bringing him a bribe or whatever it is, there's a matone, they give him a bunch of sand, whatever it is there. So all of a sudden, there's Eliyahu Novi looking like a Roman. He's next to Nochamish Gamzul, and he says, maybe that's the sand that Avraham used against Kedar Laimel to win the war. That means that the sand will turn into swords. It's like a machine gun. It'll take care of the enemy, no matter however it works out. Oh, he wants to try it. Okay, and he had the next war with the Parthians, that used to be the Persians. And he tries it, and he wins the war. All of a sudden, he comes back, he refills this box, keeps his hand, of course, fills this box with jewels, probably better jewels than the jewels would have given him. He was mevatel gzeira. He becomes probably the best friend the Jews ever had. Could be because they figure if they gave him a little box like that full of the sand, they must got a bigger pile left for themselves. But for whatever reason, he becomes a good friend of the Jews. It never was bad. Gamzu l'taiva means this is good. It's not bad. If it wouldn't have been stolen, it wouldn't have been replaced with stand, then the whole thing would have just relied on, would he take the bribe? He won't take the bribe. I mean, he'll keep the bribe, that's for sure, but will he take it to be bribed or not? That we won't know until after the thing. That would have been a big suffix. This way, it was guaranteed. So let's say, for instance, a person who is not used to good things happening, bad things happening. He's an average person, and he all of a sudden he loses his job after 20 years on the job. Right? See, he's 40 years old now, 50 years old. Not going to be so easy to get a new job at that age, and whatever it is there. So he's very depressed. I lost my job. At that time, a person is going to say, "Gamzu l'tayva." He shouldn't say "Kol di'avad lachem al l'tavavit." If he says "Kol di'avad lachem al l'tavavit," I mean that's also true, but it means that it's bad. But the bad happens to be good, because I don't have to go to Gehenna, whatever it is that it's good for. But l'maiseh, it's bad. He's supposed to say "Gamzu l'tayva." What do you mean "Gamzu l'tayva"? Well, I'll tell you, he was working for a hard boss. He never really had a vacation. The whole 10 years, 20 years, he's working for this guy. And right now, he's out of a job. He has nothing to do but sit around. He finally can sit and learn for a couple of days. He went to he was in the yeshiva. And he's going to go sit in the sun for a while. He goes swimming. He has a vacation for 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, and Baruch Hashem, that much he has enough money in the bank for. At the end of 2 weeks, someone comes over and offers him a job in the same field at triple the money he was making before, because of his experience and so on. And all of a sudden, it never was bad. The losing the job is what made it possible for this to happen. So that's Gamzu l'tayva. This is good, not bad. So I think that a lesson that we have to learn is that wherever we are and things like this happen, we got to say Gamzu l'tayva until it turns out in the end that we're so we don't have a job and we've depleted our bank account. We did everything else that's possible that it is there to do. We're on welfare. Okay, then we can say Kol di'olachem al l'tavavit. But till then, you got to say Gamzu l'tayva, because you don't know if that is really good. You're not suffering, so say Gamzu l'tayva. When you're suffering, you say Kol di'olachem al l'tavavit. Not worrying. I didn't say the word worrying. I said the word suffering. Anyway.
It's not two different hashkafas, it's just two different...
Sorry?
It's not two different hashkafas, it's just two different situations.
Two different situations, but it's the hashkafa is that you don't just worry for nothing. That's what I was trying to do. No, basically, what was Yosef seeming to do by putting out all this thing that he was worrying, how am I going to get out of here? So he's trying to push all this keiches into this thing. No, you have to do shtadlus, got to do shtadlus. Please get me out. I don't have to convince him, whatever it is. They see there's a God in the world. He's taking care of you. There's a reason you're here. You're here. I have to do status. I'll do status. He don't want to take me out. He isn't taking me out. That's what the way I have to do it. And the person to find that matzah, to be able to do that, that's the important thing. And I think with little things we should train ourselves, not so much with big things. Because big things will hit you. It's very hard to start with a big worry and say that's not a worry. But the little worries, and you can think of little worries, something burnt, the gas range just went out the wrong time, whatever it is, just do that in mind. You missed the bus, you got the bus, keep saying those things. Start with Gamzul Taifa, and you'll see what happens. And I think that way you'll find also, not so much at this point that you'll say, this is emes, you'll also see that there's a God in the world, personal God in the world. You feel him personally. That pshat is that many of the things that happen, the reason we say it was bad luck or good luck or what like that is because we don't know the end of it. We don't care about the end. We just care about I missed the bus, even though I came early. Or I got the bus even though I came late. And if I said good luck and bad luck. But instead of just doing that, find out what the end of the result is. What happened because you got the bus. Or what happened because you missed the bus. And then you'll know the reasons that there's a Rebbeinu Shalom in the world. Okay, finally, yeah. Okay, so anyway, Yosef is brought up from the burr. He tells him that he interprets the dream. And even though it's a very strange thing here, they got to see that's also Miyad Hashem. He's telling a dream that's going to take 7 years minimum to find out the emes of the dream. In other words, if they wouldn't have told this dream time, well, Pari wouldn't have had a dream, and then they had a good year, would they have had any Havamina that the Menachem was giving them a special good year? It's good luck. It was good weather this year, so we got a good thing. Second year like that, also the same thing. Oh, it's so much more than we ever had before. Wow, must have been real good this year. That's how we look at things. We don't look at things as saying, that this is the Benshman's preparing us for bed and whatever it is. So now you're asking them to wait 7 years to realize that the real reason this is happening because I'm going to bring 7 bad years that it's going to take, that's going to, cause us all these sorrows, and this is going to save us. And not only save us, they're going to make all the money in the world. And for Pari, this is going to be the biggest deal on 2 feet. We'll talk about that, why, for the Mitzrayim, not so much. They'll just be alive. For Pari, personally, it will make him the richest person in the world, the richest person. He may even be against, what's the guy from Amazon, as good as rich as he is. And the thing, though. Anyway, Pari realizes, or because they accept in the bench, I guess, so again, this is Min HaShemayim, that there's so much chen that was given over that Paro gets it, and the Avdei Pari all agree that this is the right interpretation. This is really what's going to happen. He should be charged. He should be what he called. I mean, they gave him away. They gave the guy the key to everything. There's nothing that's standing in his way. He wants to make a super revolution here. He may not do it in the first year, but he can do it. Why would you trust him with that? But that's the chen that Rebbeinu Shalom gave him. Okay, so Ravi, so Pari, and then there's all this, and he gives him a wife called Osnas. Now, Osnas is the Medrash, Gemara, I don't know whether we spoke about this or not, but Osnas is supposedly the daughter of Dinah that she came from Shechem. And only an adopted daughter to what do you call it? Now, there may be still a dick in the Roshim here, that's the only thing, because one of the reasons that they held it, funny more, that what's her name, Potiphar's wife also met the Shem Shemayim in the sense that she thought that the godless would come from her, because they didn't realize it comes from her daughter. So that means it was her daughter. But if it's only an adopted daughter, I don't know if they would have that emotion, or maybe she would. It depends how she's adopted. She's taking this little baby, and that's how she found her, and raised her as her own daughter. She had no other children except this one, so this is her godless. But she didn't realize that, and therefore it wasn't meant for her. She was not entitled to any godless stock. It's only from what from Osnas. But Osnas is a chivi, or at least she has 50% chivi bodna. And through this, the midah of acting entered into Klal Yisrael. And obviously, if you go to what do you call it? The movie capital of the world, connection it, what it's called, Hollywood. That the early people were all Jews. The money back behind it was for sure Jews. That's probably even till today. But the big actors were even Jews, and later years too. But there's a lot of Jews in the acting industry, and so the Chivi did a good job. And I think that the reason that the Mention wanted to tend to Klal Yisrael, even though what do you call it, Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak Avinu didn't want it to, is because we have to have it in Golus. We have to have that double appearance where we can deal with the goyim, we can deal with government, we can deal with everything, be respectful and everything else, even though we're an asponim, we're a nation of chutzpah, we're a nation of strength, and so on, and we're able to deal with them to make them feel their superiority and so on. That was important that it be part of our psyche. And therefore, the Mention wanted into Klal Yisrael. Okay, we'll see how that affected us really in the, not here so much as in Vayechi. Unless we mentioned that before also. How it affected us with the children of Ephraim, which are Achov and Yeravam, that they are able, because it is Semidah, and that's where he showed the Ksuba, I think, and I'm saying something that looks familiar to me, that's why I think I mentioned it. You didn't mention it last time? I'm sorry for going off again. But the last time, that's why he saw the name Osnas, he understood Yankee. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay. Anyway, it says the 7 years ended and started the thing. But before then, he had 2 children. He had Ephraim and Menashe. And why didn't he have any more children? So, first of all, there's a Medrash couldn't have any more children because he lost his the keach to have the children. Because of by Potiphar's wife. So he only has 2 children. But the Stamazeh, we learn from here that you're not allowed to have children in hunger years. And the main reason that you're not allowed to have children in the hunger years, you think, is because I have to show that I'm suffering with the people. That's one thing. That's very important, but it's also a regular person may not have this responsibility. Just the Stamazeh thinking about it, and we'll see why. Because you see that Levi did have a child in that time, Because Yocheved is born on entry to Mitzrayim, which is the second year of the hunger, and that means that she first became pregnant after the first year. That was hungry. So how is that possible? So the Indian is simply because it depends. Why would you think that a person is not allowed? If he's a melech, everyone else is suffering. I'm not suffering. I'm the king. So therefore, I'm going to do things that you can't do because you guys are suffering. You guys don't know how you're going to support your kids. I have no problem with that. So I can have kids. That's not good. That is a bad thing, because what you're doing is you're showing everybody else that I'm better than you, that you can't do. I'm luckier than you. I'm in a better situation than you are. That you're not allowed to do ever. But in the case of Levi, maybe there isn't such a feeling. Why? Because Levi is a guy who was a religious person who doesn't care if he has money, he doesn't have money. Everyone knows that's the way he is, and he'll be okay, and he'll be all right, or he won't be okay, he won't be all right. Whatever we hold about Levi. But we're not going to be seeing from Levi that the reason that Levi is he doesn't care about us, because he's also in our situation, except he's having kids. So we're not going to learn anything. We're not going to feel bad because Levi has kids. So that's one thing why maybe you're allowed to. And maybe if we all have that feeling that we all at least continue doing what we ever do without what he calls, and then that much we don't have to go and dafka look to suffer with the people. But in a case where there's mamish suffering with the people, that is the ganze Sach. There was a story, it was printed years ago, I read it. I don't know if it's true or not, because I've heard denials about the whole Maisa. It took place in the Second World War, as the Bnei Yeshiva that were being saved to go to Japan, who had the papers to go to Japan, were leaving. And it depicts a Beis Yaakov girl who was just in Kabul, on themselves to commit, die or commit suicide, instead of being be defiled by the Nazis, something like that, is all of a sudden looking at them wistfully and saying, they're leaving me to die. And Rana halacha like that, you should know that I'm not allowed to desert, call you my brethren when they're in trouble. The only time that would have been mutter, that says, is if there's no way to help, and it's every man for himself. When there reaches a time like that, a boat is sinking, every man for himself. The thing, you're in a Nazi concentration camp, they're taking you to the gas chamber, every man for himself. But besides that, to say, I'm different than you, I'm safe and you're not, that's awesome. It's a gay to Americans in time of war. It wasn't a gay, Baruch Hashem. So far we haven't had any wars, and the next war hopefully will be the last war, and they'll be with Mashiach. It will all be in El Yisrael anyway. But Americans who were in Eretz Yisrael at the time of the war, and they left because of the war, right? Because I had American passports. How did the Israelis feel? Here we're both learning yeshiva together, and you're leaving, and I'm staying. You're leaving because you have an American passport, and I don't. You're deserting me. You're leaving me to die. I mean, as far as they're concerned, they're going in, there was a suffix, especially the first Gulf War, where there was a tremendous fear in Eretz Yisrael. Right? You're not allowed to. It's a din in Shulchan Aruch. It's brought down from Yam Shel Shleima. It's not a point. I can't do that. Why am I getting in Eretz Yisrael anyway? You can take over a farming position. You can't be a soldier because you don't know how to be. So go take over somebody's farming and let the soldier go into war. Whatever it is, they go pray by the Kaisel. That's something you can do also that's brought down. So if you're not Yisrael, where's there a better place to pray to the Benishim for? Go pray. But there was no heter to go out. Obviously, a lot of people did, and whatever it is, but you have to understand the responsibility. You can't just go and then decide, if I want to leave, I can leave. If it's bad, if it gets too bad for me, I'll leave. Okay, so anyway, they ended the 7 years of good, and the years of the hunger started. Okay, it seems to say that even in the Tzayim, it wasn't so pushed about what's happening. Why? Because Atira Kol Haaretz V'Tzayim, so they screamed to Paro, and Paro said, go to Yosef. And whatever Yosef tells you to do, you do. And that meant even to follow when he told them they have to mal themselves. Just like that. That he made the Mitzrayim mal themselves. What's the point of maling themselves? I mean, they're goyim, they have no chiv to mal themselves. What's the point of the same thing? What was the point of the discussion of the brothers of Dinah with Chamor and Shechem, saying that it's a bezoyan to us to give our daughter to some people that have an olah. I mean, what's the point of an olah? We're not Jews. Why should we take off the olah? So we see from history that there were certain people that were born without olah. And Noach, for instance, was supposed to be born without olah. His father, by seeing this, was able to say on him, that this guy is going to save us. He's going to turn the world around. Now, why would he say such a thing? I mean, because the kid's born gemald. He has no olah, so he has no olah. This that we talk about a person, he has no olah, bisman hazeh doesn't really mean that. There's a part of the olah there that has to still be cut off. It's still be the real Noilad Mol, which is no olah at all, that there was only Yechidim in the world that ever happened to. And in the far space of even, I'm thinking in recent history. Recent history means the last couple of thousand years. The ones where it's mentioned in the Teich, and then the Gemara. So there is an Inyan. What was the Inyan? The Inyan, like the Minchas, according to the Chinuch, that the reason we make a Milah is to show that the perfection is in the hands of the person. The person doesn't need the olah. He's perfectly functional without the olah. So why is there an olah? Because he says is that people should learn that they have to perfect themselves. That when we're giving you the basic ability, we gave you the neshama, we gave you a guf. What you do with it is yours. And that's and that ability is everybody's. And you take it out by taking off the olah, you show that. So you're making a commitment by being to a yid that I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to try to make myself perfect in the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's basically what we're doing. So when I demand this, or when the brothers were demanding this from Shechem, they were saying we need people to feel that they want to grow and become better than they are. Doesn't pass to just have our daughter marry a guy who is not such a person, who is just a grobe jung, as you call it. He has no ethics, no anything. That's not us. It's not us. So we can't give him. You can't give you the daughter. And this is what he tried to put it in the Mitzrayim. Now, I don't know if the Mitzrayim had any real desire for this, but Lemaisa, it was the lesson that he tried to give over to them, that there's a point that if you have something, you have at least have midas toivos, willing to share, do good things for the world. That was what he's trying to teach them. At the end of Vayigash, it will talk about what happened during these 2 years. But from here you see the hunger really hit them hard. Now, what happened hit them hard? Because there's a certain amount of food you can't store. Baruch Hashem, you have canned goods, okay. They tried to store flour, wheat, menach, and stuff. It all rotted. The mention made that they should all rot except Yosef's method. Whatever it is, and even when they tried to imitate Yosef's method, it didn't help. That it all rotted, whatever they did. And so food doesn't last long. If it's not fresh, there's no food. It doesn't grow, there's hunger. You can have plenty of material wealth, but you can't live. That's what happened to Mitzrayim. Okay, and then the next week we'll talk about the wealth that I said about Mitzrayim and the thing. Yaakov saw this food in Mitzrayim, and he's tells his brothers, his sons, man, they should go down and buy some food. Why they have to buy food? Again, here's not so much we have to suffer, but we have to show that we're just in the same position as all the other people, as the Goyim. Give you a marshal how that affected us in the Middle Ages. You all heard of the Black Death? The Jews didn't die. It would have been the same now. If the Jews would not have died from this machla, that it would have said it's the Jews' fault. That's what they said in the Middle Ages. The Jews must be poisoning the waters. Therefore, they had pogroms. This is something that we can't show them that we have a better deal than they have. Even though the Shalom is treating us differently, and we're not getting sick. We're not there because we weren't getting sick, really simply because of washing the hands. It's interesting. I saw a National Geographic on this, a picture of the shortage of water that they have, and that's why a lot of the Magefas are coming, or came. And they showed you how they wash the water, how they wash, and like it's Yadayim. Like that's sufficient to clean your hands, to be able to have that dirt off your hands, that those germs off your hands. And that's where you get the thing there. So the fact that we're chayiv to wash it's Yadayim when we get up, and for when we eat, and other times during the day you want to say Dvavish Kedushi, you have to wash your hands. Everything else is only because the germs are there, without Nigreis Zachen. If you want to go into a very, simple reasoning, that the Bensham did it to save us from germs. If we do that, we save from germs. Anyway, they come to Mitzrayim with the sons, 10 of them. He doesn't send Binyamin, right? And it says, it's very interesting, the psukim here. Yosef saw his brothers and he recognized them. And he thought, and he wanted to hurt them. He wanted to hurt them. And therefore he spoke tough words with them. And then there's a second pasuk, 2 psukim later. No, the next pasuk taki. Vayake Yosef Esachav, v'hem lo yikiruhu. He recognized his brothers, and they didn't recognize him. He just said before he recognized them. When he told me again. So Rashi says, Vayake, so again, 2 pshatim. One pshat is simply he recognized them because they all looked the same. They already all had beards when he was sold. He was 17 years old. They all were older. Now, again, who's older? Zvulun is probably about 2 months older than Yosef. So he's not really older. But probably, so if Yosef didn't have a beard, then Zvulun didn't have a beard either. So he shouldn't have been able to recognize Zvulun. On the other hand, you could say he had a beard earlier. Some people grow beards early in the years, so he was more hairy than he was. I can't answer that question except to say, where he figured, look, there are 9 of them, and there's a 10th kid over there, and he also got a beard. I figured that's Vum, because he didn't have a beard. I don't recognize who this is, but he must be. So I figured that, otherwise who else he is. And they didn't recognize him. Okay. First of all, there was a lot of other reasons you wouldn't recognize him, because they never expected him to be a melech. He's dressed as an Egyptian. He's probably wearing his clothes and beard and everything else in the manner of the Egyptians. So therefore, it's not going to be the Jewish beard. It's going to be an Egyptian type beard, and therefore they wouldn't even look. Sometimes I know I have it myself. I meet somebody, and then I meet him in a completely different setting, and I don't recognize him. And and I apologize that I didn't recognize him. But the truth is, because the setting is also a prelude of recognizing a person. I expect to see you in this place. I don't expect to see you in this place. So therefore, if I see you here, I don't expect to look for you, and therefore I don't recognize you. I don't know who you are. So that's simply a reason why they didn't recognize him. That's one pshat. Rashi brings down. The second pshat, he brings a medrash Haggadah, that they didn't treat him as brothers when they threw him in, as a brother when they threw him into the bar, but he treated them as brothers now. I don't know the way he treated them from now till the end of, till he agrees to them in Vayigash. It sounds to me that he was a pretty tough guy out to get them and make them worry and give them the works. And so it doesn't sound like he's such a forgiving person, right? So what's pshat? So first of all, I want to learn that these two pshatim answer the why it says that he recognizes brothers twice. The first time was on the physical one, that he recognized them and they didn't recognize him. That's a fact. Then the second one is the medrash, really. They didn't recognize him because they didn't treat him like a brother. He treated him like a brother. What do you mean he didn't treat him like a brother? He just said he didn't. He was not yet. He intended to talk tough to them. He intended to really take revenge. And he can't do it. He's no pleasure in it. He doesn't feel any anger at them. And that bothers him. He can't. So now what is he going to do? What's my purpose? I can't feel anger at you, so I'm going to do you a favor. And that's what he treated. What is the favor you're going to do for us? I'm going to put you into a situation where maybe you'll do tshuva on what you did to me. Not because of any more kindness on you, whatever it is, but the avera that you did. And tshuva you didn't do yet. You thought you were justified. I want you to have the tshuva on what you did. And that's what this whole, whatever they call this play out that's going to be, would make sense a little bit what his purpose was. All the things that are brought down, I always had difficulty understanding. He wanted to see if there could be shalom among them, and they'll defend the Binyamin, and whatever it is. They have different relationships with Binyamin and with you. With you they didn't like, and Binyamin they liked. So what are you going to prove anything? That they have achtos and they have this because they're going to defend the Binyamin. But the thing is, I want them to see what you did to me. And that's how you're going to see it and feel it. And then you maybe going to have chalot and think back, maybe that's what happened. And we'll see in Parshas Vayigash that one's taka here. That one's here, taka. Says like this, yeah. So they talk him and he tells them all of a sudden, you guys are spies. The only way you're not going to be spies is if you can bring your younger brother down. Okay? It's something that how that proves anything, I have no idea, but whatever it is there. puts him in jail for 3 days, and they don't react yet. They don't make a revolution. They don't go fighting with them. Okay, we're in jail for 3 days. We deserve to be in jail for 3 days. We'll be in jail for 3 days. Then he takes him out, and he tells him, if you get innocent, leave one guy here, and you go back. He picks on Shimon, obviously, because Shimon was one of the 2 guys that really wanted him in there. So he picks him on Shimon, he puts him in the jail. And the whole madrashim, how he was able to get Shimon into the jail. Daddy didn't want to go already without a fight. But they got Menashe to be able to do something to his, like, when you have a certain nerve you can push. And that probably what bothered that defended him, and that he knew already, that he said, this guy's from us. There's something wrong here. And but he went to jail. And the rest of you go home and bring the food home, and then when I bring the son back, to get back. So everyone said, we're guilty about our brother, that we saw his solace when he begged us, that means Yosef, and we didn't listen to him, we didn't save him. So they realizing that maybe this is because of Yosef you're getting all this solace. So maybe he's accomplishing what he wanted to accomplish, right? So why is he continuing with this play? Can't think of the other word. With this play. So Reuven tells him, then I tell you, I'll tell you by Yelad, even a bigger thing. That now, assuming he did not hear the first one, and the fake question is, who are the Asur Harugi Malchus? The normal assumption is the 10 brothers. The 10 brothers are for the Asur Harugi Malchus, right? They didn't have 10 people. Why Reuven? Why are you angry at Reuven for? They made it before you didn't notice about it. You didn't know it because he was involved in putting you into the bar. So you didn't know that. But all of a sudden, if you overhear this conversation and you heard the Reuven saying to them, didn't you know that you didn't listen to me when I told you he's not Chayiv Misa? That means he doesn't deserve any of this stuff that we did to him. And then you didn't listen to me. So now he knows at least that Reuven defended him. So there should only be 9. So why is there 10? So the Imam Loyer says Yosef is the 10th because he was caused the fight to originate. And therefore the fight was between him and the 9 brothers. Reuven Taka was out. But Yom was out. So he says, Vayan Reuven Eisum Seba, that laid out that Vayelid. So and also not only you also know you get punished for the side things that happen too. You don't only get punished for Yosef, you're going to get punished for Yaakov, for all the aggravation that Yaakov has had, and all that thing that caused him to age, or whatever it caused him to do, you're going to pay for that too. It wasn't just what we did to Yosef, it's what was done to Yaakov that counts. And this is a person that we have to understand sometimes that there are 2 different averas. I'll give you a mashal. The din is if a guy steals a penny, kakotan kagodl, and steals $10 billion, it's the same avera as a gazel, a ganav. Obviously, stealing a penny would assume is a nothing. That's because now a penny is nothing. $10 billion, a lot of money, okay? But to who? A penny to a kid, or even not a kid. Years ago when a penny had value, and it says you have to have $10,000 or you get whatever to make a certain deal. He has $9,999.99. And a penny had value. You tell him, come back when you get the penny. So and they think, I'm not going to give it to you. And then I'm no Achmanis, I got a good deal here. I don't have to play games with you. I'll come back when you have the other penny. So if I stole a penny from you and I broke that deal, so anything that's a result of that bill could have been, I'm responsible for. On the other hand, I'll take $10 billion from, I guess from the guy again, from Citibank. They'll take them 10 years to discover they're missing it. They don't know that they're missing $10 billion. What's $10 billion to them? Right, so in what did I harm them? In what way did I harm them? So there are two averas. This one avera is what you did. So that's stealing. Still a penny, $10 billion, exactly the same thing. But now there's results from the avera. Normal case is the more you steal, the more effect you have. But sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes the little you steal has the same effect. Or has a bigger effect than the bigger amount. And you pay for that effect. It's a separate avera. It's a secondary thing. It's not that's part of the chet. It's a separate part of the einish, of a chet that you did. And he went to cry. Yosef went in to cry. Why? Why did he go to cry at this point? Nothing emotional here that should have been, but it is. Because you're almost there. You're almost there, and you didn't get it. You still didn't agree that that's the thing. I think not that you didn't agree to Ruvain. Ruvain was this thing, but the others still believed that they were right. Except we didn't have pity on you when you cried to us. Mashma, there's a din of pity also exists. And din of Bezdin, there's no such thing. If the guy's chayv misa, he can beg all he wants, he can still kill him. But in the case of like this, in this personal thing, they're supposed to have a point of achmanis that you're supposed to have, even though Menadin maybe you're right, but there's a point of achmanis that you're supposed to have. And the Rabbeinu Shem always has achmanis on us, and therefore the din, to realize that if we actually repent or say we're sorry or whatever it is in the cry, the Rabbeinu Shem has achmanis, the Yonshim also. Okay, so they fill up everything and they put up and they put the money in everyone's bag. Echad, who happens to be Levi, of course he's the only one left from the pair, and he sees the money's in his bag, and so he starts to worry. And when they see it, they all start worrying. What are they worrying about? And we'll see later on when they come to Yosef, and they worry again. They all find everyone finds the money. Yaakov is worried. God's giving them a gift. Right? Why? And they knew if they deserved it or not. That's the difference. We get rich, we think we deserve it, or we say it's good luck. Bad things, it's bad luck, or we deserve it. Sometimes we realize who we are, and sometimes we don't realize who we are. The others, the Shiftei realized who they were all the time. They felt guilty or were not guilty, so therefore they did not deserve what's happening to them. And therefore they didn't then do anything overly good in the life that they should get a schar. And therefore if we get schar, that means we're doing something overly bad. And that we don't know what it is, and that's what the fear. That's the thing that a person, they say in Pirkei Avos, if you have good things happening to you, you're not supposed to say it's because of my schusim that it's happening to me. It's a thing that I'm supposed to say that God's paying me off in this world and do tshuva. And of course, if bad things are happening to me, so I say to God's doing bad thing because I deserve it, so therefore I better do tshuva. So whatever it is, it means you should do tshuva. Anyway, they come back to Yankov Avinu. And Yaakov is complaining to them. Yosef is not here anymore. Shimon is not here anymore. Now you want to take Binyamin? Like, you guys can't trust you with anybody. So Reuven gives him a guarantee. My 2 children you can kill if I don't bring them back. Rashi is a kash on him. Like, that Yaakov didn't listen to him, meaning because they are children, not my children. I love them just like my own children, my grandchildren and children you have the same love for. So in Mela, I love them just as much. I'm not going to let you kill my grandchildren. So Taki, what we shout, and is Reuven able to kill his grandchildren? They're his children. I mean, they belong to him as any like slaves. Even slaves you can't kill. You just can't go around and kill things for what you want to kill. Even though you have the power to kill, you can't just do it. So, what was his guarantee? So you got to say his guarantee meant, I'm going to take as good care of him as if my 2 children's lives were at stake. So that Yaakov tells him, that guarantee is not a guarantee. As if is not a guarantee. Because it's not. And once it's not the same type of work. Okay. So comes Yehuda, meanwhile, holds his tongue, because we said Yehuda understood Malchus, and Malchus was a point of not only tact, but to figure out ways of how to get your things done. Now, Melech doesn't always have the most power, or he's not the smartest man necessarily, whatever it is there. But he has to be the guy that's able to utilize all his things, all the power at his hands, to be able to bring peace to the world, to at least to him, to the country, and prosperity and so on. So you have to hold your temper, like in this particular case. Yehuda didn't jump in on the fight and say, with Reuven, give us, I'm with Reuven, we'll protect him, we'll do a little wait, whatever it is. Not going to help. He waited until the food is gone. And now, again, for the same reason he sent out the kids before to get food in this time, he's got to send them again. Because even you can stall a week, you can stall another week, but the people knew you only brought back so much, and you have to go back to Mitzrayim at some time. So, and we need food, you got to go back to Mitzrayim. So Yehuda said, we can't. The guy made us swear, and this, you can't ask us to go get ourselves killed, because the man told us, don't come back without the kid. He says though, so Yaakov was stuck, right? But he sees that Yaakov is may give in, but he'll be very upset, very worried about what's going to happen. So he makes an unnecessary shvua here, and he says, I'm going to give you. I'm going to guarantee my life, my olam haba. I'm guaranteeing for it. All the days, and all the days means olam haba. And until Moshe's tefillah, he didn't come back in. So he's giving up his olam haba. And could be they didn't know the din of that even if you make a neder when you make something on yourself, a shvu on yourself, when there's a noinish involved, not even on yourself, on someone else also. And whether it happens or doesn't happen, it's going to be Mekuyim. So therefore, he gave up his Olam Haba regardless if he brings him back or not. He gives up his Olam Haba regardless if he gives him back. Why? So now, what's the purpose of Yaakov listening to him? So I said, could be that they didn't know the tzur this yet. Or, we say, how can you say he didn't know it? They knew it. So therefore, he knew giving up his world, no matter if he's making the Tanai or he doesn't make the Tanai, it's all given up. So why should I trust you? You have nothing to lose anymore. The idea is, you lost it already, you're going to make sure it was not for nothing. That's for sure. That much I know. You gave it to me already. Okay, I lost it, but I lost it tomorrow that Yaman comes back, when Yaman's coming back. That's a guarantee. Okay. So as much as he trusted in the Gevurah of Yehuda, that's how much he was calmed after this thing. That at least it may maybe be aggravated. Yehuda's not going to be there. I'm going to have him. But still, that's a different type of aggravation. And he told him, go. Okay. And you take the double money and everything else. Okay. That was the end of it. Okay. Jetzt have a good Shabbos, Freil and Chanukah from whatever's left of it. And it was a real good Shabbos, a gesunden Shabbos. Be well.
Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Shabbos, baby.
Shabbos.